Let's face it, English is absolutely notorious for breaking its own rules. But in this explainer, we're taking that exhausting, massive list of grammar rules and transforming it into your ultimate, easy-to-remember survival guide for nouns. By the time we wrap up today, you're going to have a crystal clear roadmap to navigate even the trickiest grammar traps with total confidence. Okay, here's our game plan for today. We're going to hit 5 stops. Back to noun basics, making nouns plural, irregular and foreign plurals, tricky singular and plural traps, and finally, mastering noun possessives. Let's get into it. Section 1, back to noun basics, understanding the foundation. So, to start off, let's establish our baseline. We basically sort nouns into 3 distinct buckets. First up, we've got common nouns. These are your general, everyday items, like a girl or a house. Then there are proper nouns. These are specific names that absolutely demand capitalization, like Thomas or the state of Tennessee. And finally, we have collective nouns. Now, these are kind of fascinating because words like team or flock represent a whole group of individuals, right? But grammatically, they act as a single collective unit. Moving right along to Section 2, making nouns plural, the standard rules. All right, now that we've got our foundation solid, let's talk about making things plural. Because while simply slapping an S on the end of a word is the general rule, well, English just loves its exceptions. So here is a rapid-fire breakdown of the most crucial suffix changes. Basically, if a singular noun ends in a hissing sound, like an S, X, Z, chi, or shi, you add an ES, turning a word like box into boxes. If it ends in a consonant followed by a Y, you actually drop that Y and add IES, turning city into cities. And if you've got a word ending in F or FE, like wolf or knife, you change that ending entirely to Vs, so wolves and knives. Now, here's a rule that catches so many people off guard, the O rule. If a word ends in O, you've got to look really closely at the letter immediately before it. If a vowel comes right before the O, like in radio or video, you literally just add a simple S. Easy enough, right? But if there's a consonant before that O, think hero or potato, you generally need to add an ES to make it heroes or potatoes. It's a tiny detail, but absolutely crucial. Next up, Section 3, irregular and foreign plurals. Breaking the rules. So just when you thought you had a solid handle on all those suffixes, we enter the wild territory where words just completely break the mold. Seriously, forget everything we just talked about regarding suffixes for a second. Some nouns simply change their internal vowels entirely instead of just tacking a letter onto the end. For instance, one man becomes 2 men. One tooth becomes a whole mouthful of teeth, and one mouse turns into a family of mice. You kind of just have to memorize these internal shifts because, well, no S or ES is going to save you here. And hey, if you ever find yourself confused by compound words, there's actually a super simple 2-step process for making them plural. Let's take brother-in-law, for example. Step 1, find the main noun. Who is the actual person we're talking about here, right? It's the brother. Step 2, make only that main noun plural. So it becomes brothers-in-law, definitely not brother-in-laws. Also, we absolutely cannot forget about words borrowed from other languages. You will see these Latin and Greek origins on competitive exams all the time. A single datum becomes a set of data. A desert oasis becomes multiple oases. And a singular criterion becomes a set of criteria. Being able to spot these foreign endings is a total game changer and will instantly elevate your grammar game. All right, Section 4, tricky singular and plural traps, navigating the minefield. Okay, this brings us to what I think is the most crucial point of this entire explainer, learning how to navigate the absolute optical illusions of English grammar. Take a second right now to test your own intuition. Let's say you get a positive update. Do you say, the news is good? Or do you say, the news are good? Which one of those actually sounds correct to you? Well, if you guessed the news is good, you totally nailed it. Words like news, mathematics, physics, or innings, they might look plural with that sneaky S stuck right on the end, but they are a massive grammatical trap. They demand a singular verb. The news is good. Mathematics is fun. Conversely, here's the exact opposite illusion. Words like cattle, police, and children look completely singular because, well, there's no S at the end, but they actually carry a plural meaning and absolutely require a plural verb. You would literally never say, the cattle is grazing. It must be, the cattle are grazing. Next up, uncountable nouns. Listen, never let me catch you saying furnitures or informations, okay? These are uncountable abstract or material nouns. They always stay in the singular form and simply cannot take an S at the end, and you can't throw the article a or an in front of them either. You ask for advice, you never ask for an advice or advices. Now, this number brings us to the totally bizarre fraction rule. It's a really specific quirk. If you have a numeral and a fraction, how exactly do you say it? Well, you can say 2 kilos and a half, or you can say 2.5 kilos. Both are totally fine. But watch out when you get down to the number 1. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a strict rule. Do not say 1.5 rupees. Grammatically speaking, it has to be 1 rupee and a half. You really want to watch your step here because simply adding an S to these specific nouns completely changes their entire dictionary definition. Think about it. Good means wise or morally right. But add an S to make it goods, and suddenly you are talking about raw materials or retail products. Force means physical strength, right? But forces refers to the military. Just that one little S flips the whole shebang. And finally, Section 5, Mastering Noun Possessives, Taming the Apostrophe. For our final topic, we are tackling what is easily the most misunderstood punctuation mark in the entire English language. The general rule for singular nouns is that you add an apostrophe and an S to show ownership, like James's bike. However, and this is a big however, if the word is an ancient or dignified name that already ends in a really strong hissing sound, like Jesus or conscience, adding another S literally makes it impossible to pronounce. In those super rare cases, you only add the apostrophe, so it's just for Jesus' sake. Now let's look at how we handle plural possessives. If the plural noun already ends in S, like babies, the apostrophe goes on the very outside. You definitely don't add another S. But if the plural noun does not end in S, like children or men, it gets an apostrophe followed by an S, exactly like a singular word would. But what happens when two people own something? Well, if your aunt and uncle own one single house together, that is joint possession. In that case, only the second person gets the possessive apostrophe S, making it aunt and uncle's house. But if they each own their own separate cars, both individuals get the apostrophe S, so it becomes aunts and uncles' cars. Makes sense, right? As you keep mastering these rules and actually applying them to your own writing, just remember that even compound phrases take the apostrophe on the very last word. Like you rely on somebody else's words, placing the apostrophe at the very end of the phrase. Look, English grammar might be an absolute minefield full of traps, but with this guide, you now have the tools to spot them from a mile away. So what other grammar illusions are you ready to shatter next? Keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.